Hey, seventh graders. Sorry I'm out today, but I wanted to explain to you how you're going to do the activity with the sub. Starts on page 8 of your packet, and you can see with this data tables how you're going to get started. So the idea of the genetic wheel activity is to give you a chance to see just how unique you are with these 7 traits right here: hair color, hair type, tongue curling, mid-digital hair, pigmented iris, widow's peak, and bent finger. And for each trait, there are 2 different forms of the trait. You can either have form 1 or form 2. And we're going to see in this room if there's anyone else in the class that has the exact same combinations for these 7 traits as you do. So to get started, the sub is going to show you a Google Slides, and or actually, you know what? I could probably just show it to you. That would just be even better. So hold on a second. I'm going to show you, if we go over here, and there. Oh, there we go. All right, so the first trait is hair color. So if you have super blonde hair like Gwyneth Paltrow here, then we would say that you have, when I go back to this document, that you have form 2, so I would put an X in that box. Now, very few people actually have truly blonde hair, at least genetically, although some of you might think that you do. I don't really care what you want to put because this is all for fun, but chances are good, those of you that think you have blonde hair, it's actually light brown. Okay, so I'm going to head back to this Google slide. So all other colors, you're going to have form 1. The next one is straight hair and curly hair. So if you have super straight hair, meaning like you get out of the shower, you let it air dry, and it is super straight all the time, even the August humid Minnesota weather doesn't start curling on you, then straight hair. Most people have curly or at least some kind of wave to their hair. So again, I'd go back to my sheet and I'd put an X in whatever it is that I happen to have. Okay. Tongue curling. Most people can curl their tongue like in this picture, but some people can't. So if you're unable to, then you can mark that appropriately in your data table. All right, mid-digit hair. So if you look at on your fingers, like where you would have a ring, so in between the knuckles here and then also where this red line is showing, if you hold your hands up to the window in the back of the classroom, most people will have these super small little hairs on their fingers. So that means you have mid-digit hair. A few of you will not have any hair. So you can put that in the correct box, mark what you have on this data table here. All right, pigmented iris. So again, this is eye color. This one gets a little tricky because you can see there's just so much variation. If you have blue eyes, you would look like this person here or this one right over here, okay? Super true blue eyes. But any other color, green, brown, hazel, grayish, or whatever, that would be the form of the trait where we would say you have form 1. All right, widow's peak. Here we go, John Travolta. If you don't know who John Travolta is because I'm too old and you're too young and you don't know who this guy is, you could maybe picture Leonardo DiCaprio. They both have a widow's peak, okay? So this point in the front. So you're going to decide, do I have a widow's peak or do I not, and mark it correctly. And then our last one is fingers, curved fingers. So here in this image, the fingers flare away from each other, but this one, the fingers are touching all the way up. So you can decide what it is that you have. And once again, mark it in this data table. So after that, what you're going to do is you are going to fill out your genetic wheel. So if you turn the page, this is your genetic wheel. But what I'm going to do is actually head to the Google Slides. Now, I'm going to put it in presentation mode, all right? And so here, what you're all going to do is start in the center circle. And if you happen to have form 1 for hair color, because that was the first trait we looked at, and if I look up here, form 1 says capital letters. I would color in this capital L right here. I'd shade that whole space in. Form 2 are lowercase letters, so I would do down here. Now what this wheel does is it allows me to figure out just how unique I am in this space in my classroom or any group of people that I'm with. I can see that the wheel starting up here has number 1 all the way around to number 128. And the reason for that is if I go back, okay, the reason for that is if I go back to this document right here, we looked at 7 traits today, and there are 2 options for each trait, form 1 and form 2. So if we take 2 to the 7th power, or 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and you get the idea, there's 128 different combinations of these traits. And so that's why there's 128 those numbers around the circle. So I'm going to head back to my Google slide, put it in presentation mode. All right, so again, I would shade in this one if that is what I had. Let's say for the next trait, T is hair type. Let's say I had the Form 2 version. Okay, so then I would shade in this one. And basically I keep shading outward until I get to a number on the outside edge of the circle. Now what's really important to pay attention to is that what I'm shading, they're all touching something I previously shaded. And then whatever number I'm at, I would write that number in my center circle. And what you're going to do right now with the sub is you're going to go around the room and everyone's going to share their number, and we're going to look for matches to see who might share the same combination of traits that you do. Okay, so you're going to want to pause the video and do that. All right, now that we're back, here's what we're going to do next. So now what you're going to do with the sub is you're going to help the sub figure out how many people we have in the class of each type of trait. So for example, let's kind of keep it simple. Let's say there were 30 students in the class today, and let's say that 2 of them had form 1 for hair color, and then since we're working out of 30, then 28 must have the other version. Okay, so you're going to have to count. So I suggest that when the sub asks you for what form you have, form 1 or form 2, you raise your hand, and the sub's going to record it for you, either up on the computer screen or on the whiteboard for you guys to copy. Okay, so why don't you pause and collect all of that data. All right, let's say that you've collected all your data. Then what you're going to do is you're going to calculate percent in this column here. So if I have 2 out of 30 people, I'm going to decide what percent that would be that would have form 1 of the trait. Almost there. Hold on a second. So that is about, oh, that's a pretty small number. So I'm going to take 2 divided by 30, okay, and we'll round it to 1%. And then that would mean 29% here, okay? Or sorry, not 29%, Miss Weiland, 99%, okay? So we want to have those 2 numbers add up to 100. All right. Let's see, I feel like something's weird. Hold on a minute. Like 2 divided by 30. 28 divided by what? 28. Sorry, while I figure this out. Okay, actually over here I get 93%, so this has to be 7. I don't know what was going on with my calculator. All right, so you're going to complete both of these columns here, and then what you're going to do is actually plot it. You're going to graph it. And so if you can turn, actually you don't have to turn the page, look at your right-hand page, you're going to see a place to make a bar graph. And so basically here's what's going to happen. Now this is sample data, so you can't use this data. But what you're going to do is you're going to end up making a bar graph where you will have 14 bars all the way across. All right. You need to come up with a title for your graph with your class. The y-axis will be percent of people with the trait. and your x-axis will be the traits themselves, and you can list them all out here at the bottom, okay? Then you're going to make a bar for each of the Form 1 and Form 2 for hair color, Form 1 and Form 2 for hair type, and so on. So you should end up with 14 bars unless you happen to have something that was at 0%. Once you're finished with that, you will be answering the questions on the bottom of page 11. I think there's 4 questions and your graph, and the questions are homework. Hope you had a great day. See you next class.